My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
You're listening to Best Quality Vacuum, the Duckfeed show about the Vince Gilligan Breaking Bad universe. That's Breaking Bad, El Camino, and Better Call Saul.
Yeah, and this week we're talking about 38 Snub. Gary didn't plan this. Would have been wild
is it
if I
episode
did.
38?
It is episthis 38.
Whoa!
I know, right?
That's going to confuse a lot of people. They're going to think the name of the episode is Snub. This is a typo. There's no Breaking Bad episode called Snub.
We abbreviate stuff, right?
Yeah. Exactly. A BQV snub. A new kind of gun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is episode 2 of season 2. It is after we have had our, episode 1 of this is basically just a cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
This is our scene setting.
Yes.
Episode of this.
You did
literally
say
the only I remember.
You did say season
one thing
2?
from this episode. Season 4.
Yes. Yeah.
Double it.
Okay.
Season 2 to the second power.
Yeah. You remember one thing from this episode? Sorry.
Yeah. It was literally just the opening cold open.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else could have been in any episode this season.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have believed you.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a bad episode or anything. It's just really doing work. Like, I would consider this episode to be workmanlike.
It's moving in a direction, but it doesn't get there, right?
Yes.
Which, of course,
doesn't get very far.
Yeah. Let's say that. Yeah.
It begins a bunch of arcs.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing wrong with that or anything like that. But it's something I remember about season 4 is having a few more of these episodes that don't have a very strong identity on their own.
Yeah.
I don't know if that'll hold true on this like close watch, but that's something I remember from previous rewatches.
Yeah, it does take a little bit to get going. I think we're still in this zone a little bit next week.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah. This was directed by Michelle MacLaren and written by George Mastras, and it originally aired on July the 24th, 2011.
Yeah. So new status quo. Walt tried to talk to Gus. Gus, successfully talked Gus out of killing him and Jesse and into killing somebody else.
Yes.
And it's him, this is an extension of the scene with Jesse and Walt at the diner.
Yes.
Walt is in scheme mode.
Mm-hmm.
He's coming up with a plan to murder Gus. Jesse is like, well, everyone knows where they're at. I'm going to die any day now.
Mm-hmm.
I have to, make my life one never-ending party to not think about that. And also not think about all the murders I did.
So I'm going to set about my life's work, which is creating a secular hell house.
Yes. It is a real nightmare. This is specifically aimed at us. It makes me think of that Key and Peele sketch. About like the two guys who it's like The Weekend or something, and they're like never stop partying, but the song keeps going and it becomes clear that they're like stuck in a geese, like they want to stop partying but they can't.
Like Duff Man. Yeah.
Very, very similar to Duff Man.
So we also have Skylar. She's trying to make her move to buy the car wash because she sees that as safety for them if anybody comes looking. And we have Hank getting meaner and meaner with Marie. This starts becoming kind of directly abusive. Yes,
it's pretty hard to watch. Marie is very saintly in this, and Hank is being a real asshole. Hank needs this. He went through a very traumatic thing. He's very used to being very self-sufficient. This is hard for him. Yeah. He also needs a purpose.
Yes.
And he's going to get that, throughout the season. Yeah. We get 2 introductions in this episode. We meet Tyrus. Tyrus is the other hench goon of Gus, here played by Ray Campbell. In the script, he's just called New Victor, which is funny, even though Better Call Saul would go on to show that they were both under his employ.
Yes.
Previous to this.
Tyrus just had a different assignment. Can I just remark here on the eyebrows on this man?
Yeah. Like the kind of dead-eyed creeps that Gus employs are really great. I love I don't think this is an intentional thing, but something that's really interesting once we start showing in Better Call Saul, Mike's hiring process.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mike's got his guys and there's so much humanity to the guys, like when they show, they show the guys who are watching over the construction of the lab, things like that. And then the people Gus hires directly who are all these, Agent 47 types, like this.
It is impossible to imagine a Tyrus functioning outside of this, right?
Yeah. We also get Lost in the Arms Dealer, played by the great Jim Beaver. I know Jim Beaver from Deadwood. Standout role in that. The only probably good character in the show, like one of like 3 like good characters in the show, like unambiguously good.
Yeah.
I love Jim Beaver. I've always loved him since Deadwood.
Yeah.
He only gets 2 appearances, but it's like professionalism porn.
It's so good.
Like,
I love this guy's whole posture, his whole demeanor, right? Like he's a little bit of a like a mirror to Gale. To a degree,
sure.
Like he's providing this highly illegal service, but he has this high standard that he sets for himself in order to do it well and make sure people are getting what they need. Also, I really have a thing, I guess, this archetype. I have a great amount of affection for the kind of Southern person who speaks with great precision. Kind of thing, like huge Major Garland Briggs vibes off of this guy.
We gotta watch Deadwood.
I
like,
know,
I
right?
understand. I keep saying this, but like it's all that.
Yeah.
Like,
I knew when I was formulating,
I like that kind of thing too.
I knew when I was formulating that point that you would say, "Hey, if you like that, have I got a show for you?"
It's a big Deadwood thing.
Yeah.
The language is Shakespearean. Like it's incredibly precise and good. He's great. I love Jim Beaver and I love this character.
Yeah.
Bogdan comes back. Mr. Eyebrows. I think it's funny that you said the eyebrows on this guy talking about Tyrus.
Yeah.
Like, he's not an actor. He was cast because he has crazy fun eyebrows. He's a physics professor. So they had to fly him out for this part, for the scenes that he's in this season.
I had no idea he was a physics professor. I love that.
Yeah. He does a great job in this. I love Bogdan.
Yeah.
And little trivia bits. Jesse's party scenes were really wild. They could not film them in the house. They had to recreate the living room as its own set.
Yes.
There are a lot of people in that horrible, horrible living room.
Yeah. And they destroy it. Like it is over the course of like the first half of this season, it just becomes worse and worse.
Yeah. Yep. Let's get started here with that cold open, which is the thing I associate with this episode.
Yeah.
Walt in a hotel room.
He's in a hotel room and he's, looking into a mirror and he's, pointing guns straight at the camera like it's the pilot. He's here for a meetup with an illegal arms dealer, Lawson. He wants something that will not be seen under clothes. He's saying like, oh, this gun, can you see it? It's like, well, it's pretty concealed, but any trained lawman will be able to spot that.
Clock it immediately.
Yeah.
You want the snub nose 38, this 38 snub, and gives him a concealed waistband holster.
Yeah.
And Walter does not know about guns.
No.
This would feel better if I cross drew. He's like, you're not going to want to cross draw unless you're sitting down. So Walt sits down, to try to do the version that feels more comfortable to him.
Yeah.
Weird parallel with this with junior driving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of just like the right way and the way that's immediately comfortable to you.
That is a really good poll. Actually, I did not think of that.
It's not, there's not comparable. Not knowing about guns is not comparable to cerebral palsy, but like it's, that's something I noticed during this. And there's there's humor in this episode as well. We didn't really mention this. This is a funny episode.
Yes.
Lawson's like, you're going to want to practice your draw.
Just like, because Walt's just like fumbling around. A lot of you're just like, hey, you're all fingers. So, and Lawson points out the reason why this costs 5 times as much as you otherwise would. The serial number is filed off. This is untraceable, but also carrying this around it's a felony. Yep.
He's, and the dialogue in this is such a treat. Like it's so delicious, like Walt saying like, assume that I know that, this is not something I want to be caught with. And he's like, you'd assume, right? And when he says that's going to be expensive, he's like, there's the reason you're going to pay me 5 times more than you'd pay at a gun store. It's all just very like delicious, and he's saying basically, I make a habit of not asking people their business, especially when one's not referred by the lawyer, but why don't you just go get a gun?
Yeah.
Are we talking strictly self-defense? And I love Cranston's performance during this too. Yes, absolutely. Which is kind of true in his mind, right? Like there's arguably he thinks so.
I'm the one who did the paint job.
And Lawson says if it's personal defense, like just go get a gun. This is the West boss. Somebody comes, step into your property. You're within your rights to kill them. Some people consider that a moral right. I consider myself among them, and Walt he elides the question.
Yes.
He's like, no, this was perfect. It's for defense.
Yeah. Technically true. He is in danger, but they're talking about very different circumstances.
Yeah. It's also the degree to which he is in danger right at this moment is something he's exacerbating.
Yeah.
For fun, because for the love of the game. He doesn't want to leave the game.
No. So we have Mike. We're checking in on people here. We have Mike. He's sitting in a bar during daytime and just reading a newspaper and stressing out. Notices some dried blood on his cuff. We're going to come back to this bar. I love this bar. I would go here.
Every bar in the show looks great.
True
to me.
Yeah.
This isn't quite as good as the homie bar to me that Jesse and Walt go to. That looks like a basement, but I do like this bar a lot.
Yeah. Go over to Jesse's place, and he is trying to fill the hole in himself with possessions. He has set up this huge stereo system, towering speakers, just a whole rack that's as tall as him, right?
It's possessions, but it's also specifically noise.
Well, yes.
Something, talk like, we listen to a lot of podcasts when we're just walking around. For me, that's something that ebbs and flows depending on how my mental state, like whether I can just be alone with my thoughts. I'm doing well if I can take a walk without my headphones.
Yes.
If I can't do that, then I'm not doing as well. And Jesse is in a permanent state now of not being able to take a walk without his headphones.
Right. I put it under the umbrella of possessions because he also got a Roomba.
Yeah, that's true. And at the time was a real status symbol.
And obviously he cannot live with himself because he murdered somebody. He's been around a lot of deaths, associated with them, but this is the first time that he pulled the trigger. And Jesse, for all of us talk about being the bad guy, he's soft. Yeah.
He's sensitive. Skinny Pete, Badger bangs on the window. Him and Skinny Pete come in and they're admiring the sound system, and Jesse's just hitting him up with all his technical detail that is lost, on these idiots, of course. And then later he starts crushing up meth, and Badger and Skinny Pete look at each other. Pete's like, I love this little bit here. Badger looks at Pete to say it. Hey, bring it up. And Pete's like, hey, I saw Andrea at the meeting. And Jesse goes, okay, and then offers them the joint. Pete says, hey man, I can't 12 steps. And then Jesse says seriously, and then pushes over to Badger, and Badger, being slightly more given to the darker angels of his nature, says maybe just a little bump.
Yes. And then puts his head down out of camera. He doesn't do a bump. He does the entire rail. And then, when his head comes back up, it's much later, many more rails later. And they are having a tweaked out conversation about the best zombies in video games. Yeah.
This is very cute and very funny.
Yeah.
Makes me wish that I was the video game consultant on all video games. There's so little DNA between Left 4 Dead and Resident Evil 4.
Wild.
In terms of how they play. Like, I don't actually believe these dopes would really get Resident Evil 4, and I understand how that makes me sound. But I do kind of believe it, Whereas Left 4 Dead and Call of Duty World at War Nazi Zombies is just guys rushing at you and you shoot them.
Yes. Yeah. There's a broader missing the point here too, because they're talking about Resident Evil 4, and anybody who doesn't listen to our video game shows is going
to be mad.
Is so mad at us. But they're talking about Resident Evil 4, and they're saying like, oh, that that chick you rescue, she's so hot. Like, are you telling me like you wouldn't get that? Like, you're the last two people on Earth. Resident Evil 4 is not a directly apocalyptic scenario.
No, you're not the last two people on Earth. That is the president's daughter. Put some respect in your mouth, Badger. And then they go through. Skinny Pete's making an argument from challenge, you know, and Badger's making an argument from fantasy.
Yes.
You know, the Call of Duty zombies are Nazi zombies. You don't have to feel bad about killing them. They're the Talibans of the zombie world. Really funny to me.
This goes on for so long.
I could watch this for eternity.
Oh, yeah,
I could watch an entire show that was just these two idiots talking about games.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying
Give them
that.
a podcast on our network. Like,
hey, Matt Smith. Hey, Matt Smith, if you're listening, open invite, bud.
Yeah, in character. We know somebody who knows Matt Smith. We could get Matt Smith on the show.
We could,
no problem. Yeah. So they asked Jesse. They're like, "Hey, where do you come down on all this?" And they agree, totally.
Yeah. I mentioned how long it goes on specifically because Jesse has not been participating. He is just focused on setting up the next rails. And then, it makes it even funnier when it's like, hey, weigh in, solve this. And he's like, nothing, just agree. He's not listening.
Yeah. Music ends and Jesse says, you know what this needs? You know, and then we cut to this gigantic party. Yeah. I don't know where all these people came from. I guess if you just say free drugs and booze in Albuquerque, people will show up. But how do they know all these people is the thing I kept thinking because I'm old.
They've got dealer connects, right?
Yeah, so many dealer connects, though. There's like 40 people here out of nowhere.
Oh, come on. You think there were...
I don't know 40 people.
But you're not a dealer, Gary.
Well, the things you don't know about me could just about fucking fill the Grand Canyon.
Okay.
Let's not.
Sorry, I never thought to ask. Yes. All right. Well,
yeah, exactly. Well, and if you ask, I have to tell you. Anyway, it's a nightmare party. This would kill me.
Oh yeah.
All the diegetic music in this thing are either like bad remixes of old good hip hop songs, a couple good old hip hop songs, and then some absolutely embarrassing like sneer metal, like sneer kind of stuff. I don't know how to describe it, but it's hard to listen to.
Yeah. It's pretty rough stuff, and it's only going to get worse from here.
Yeah, nobody's having a good time in season 4. Walt's over at his condo. He's practicing drawing his pistol from a seated position, just dry firing in an empty chair. Picturing Gus.
Don't dry fire.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, he could go to a gun training thing to learn how to do gun.
Yeah,
he wants to make sure he accidentally kills Junior. That's the most statistically likely thing that happens with this gun.
Yes.
We cut over to Hank. Hank's looking at one of his minerals through a magnifying glass, and while he's sleeping, it's nighttime, Marie slowly reclines the bed up to look.
Yeah.
And
he's not doing it while he's sleeping. That would be an entirely different level of deterioration. Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's sleep time.
Yes.
Yeah. And he's being a huge asshole. She's like, "Hey, can you not sleep? Or you're looking at this at 2:24 a.m." And he's just like, no, like this is, first of all, this is not a rock. It's this. And he's giving all this detail about the crystal structure and shit.
Yeah, where it came from, all of this, and he just, God, I hate this line so much. He says, last I counted, Marie, there are 4 bedrooms in this house. If you're trying to sleep, and she's discussing it.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible thing to say.
I do love using the reclining bed for entry and exit from a frame.
Yeah,
that is very funny in terms of blocking. But yeah,
what an asshole though.
Yeah,
she goes back to sleep, reclines out of frame. Walt's packing his lunch for the day at work, and Skylar calls, and he lets it go to machine.
Yeah,
while he's playing with his gun,
dropping the bullets.
Slams his head on the counter. He does not know gun. And then she starts bringing up, she's like, "Hey, I haven't gotten money in a long time. The bills are piling up. Also, we need to talk about that car wash." And Walt picks up. He's not being reasonable here. He's just
not at all
mad at everything. He's a big exposed nerve, and is calling her out for bringing up a car wash on the phone.
Yeah.
And she brings up like, well, the whole point of this is that we can talk about it.
Yeah.
We're not hiding anything.
It's not incriminating that we're planning on buying a car wash. In fact, all this shit that you are saying right now is way more incriminating.
Yeah, way more suspicious. You dope. She threatens to go directly to Saul.
Yeah.
And he goes, "No, I will handle it. Classic Walt refrain.
Yeah. And it's later in the day, Jesse, or, it's still that morning rather. And Jesse, at his place, everybody's sleeping it off, just directly on the floor wherever they fell.
Yeah. Oh my God. I hate my party days. I'm like thinking back to this and just the feeling of the sun coming in after like a big drinky night like this.
Yeah.
Or like a Roomba hitting me when I was in this mode. Like I would fight the Roomba and win.
I am very thankful that in all of my drinking, I never fell asleep directly on the floor. Which
it's not great. You don't feel good.
No.
God, I am so glad that part of my life is over.
Oh,
getting older kind of rocks. Like we're talking about it in the green room. I like fucked up one of my tendons sleeping. Like, oh, Gary, were you pushing your body to the limit? Were you on the tennis court? No, I was sleeping and I fucked up my body enough to like be an injury. And that sucks. And it's not the first time I've done it. Not the first part, it's multiple parts of my body, but I will probably trade that for not living like this.
Yes.
This just seems so intensely miserable to me. I know that makes me sound like a square, but I cannot handle it.
And it's just like, I had stuff approaching this, right? Not with other people around mostly, but it was like,
well, alone, it's less sad.
Right. But it's like, just man, what a relief. What a relief that you just don't have, like you don't have to do that.
I'm just not going to do that. Yeah. It's fucking bizarre to put myself in that mindset of like, no, I have to do this because if I don't, I might miss out.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
As this Roomba's moving around, it's a POV shot from the Roomba. They stuck a GoPro on the Roomba.
Also, so if they didn't stick a GoPro on the Roomba, this is not navigating like any Roomba ever has. It's not running into things. Yeah. It would be so much funnier if it ran into people and did its wayfinding like that.
Yeah. It hits a couple people, but not the way the Roomba really would.
Yes.
The technology is not there for Roombas to be this smart.
No. The soundscape on this, just hearing the thumping sound.
Yeah.
Just somebody at this party where everybody is hangover, just throwing a ball against the wall.
Oh my God. That guy would die.
Yep.
Like I'd fight everybody in this party.
Yeah.
A weird tweaker picks up the Roomba and starts trying to take it apart as Jesse walks by, and Jesse doesn't stop him.
Yeah.
And Jesse, this is like the turn. Jesse wakes Badger. Badger hits Skinny Pete in the ass, and wakes him up. And Pete punches him really hard. He's like, "You're way too sensitive about your zone, man." And Badger, Jesse says, "I gotta go to work." And Badger's like, "Cool, I'll start cleaning the place up. It's the least we can do."
Yeah.
And Jesse goes, "No. Here's some money for breakfast and liquor. I want this place kicking like a sensei when I get back. Keep it going. Like the party cannot die. If I'm not at work, I have to be listening to this music." And they do a great cut where they're listening to some horrible fucking song on the stereo, and he's listening to the same song really loud in his headphones.
Yes.
He's bringing this "I cannot be alone with my thoughts" with him wherever he goes.
Yeah.
He cannot take a walk without his headphones.
This flame can't go out because he cannot go home to a dark and cold house. Right.
Yep. Yeah. So he arrives. He arrives at work. Walt arrives, sees him weighing the bins, listening to his headphone, and Walt conceals his gun in the holster in his locker very clumsily.
And the door opens and we hear somebody walking in, and Walt seems prepared to draw. It's real tense, but it's a new guy. This is new Victor. This is Tyrus, and he's here for the shipment.
I love Jesse. Like, "You the new guy?" Yeah. He's like, "You got something for me?" Yeah. Like he's just, weirdly also professional because he understands what's going on. He's no longer playing the game.
Yeah.
And Mike comes in and says, "How much we got?" Tyrus tells him, he says, "Wait again, new policy."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real, just new order here, right? Everything is being battened down, and Walt asks like, "Hey, where's Gus? I wanted to speak with him. I wanted to clear the air." And this is where Mike says, "You're never going to see Gus again."
Yeah. Great line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Skylar has Holly in the car. She's watching the car wash from across the street, making notes about cars getting services here so she can do her plan.
Yes.
Hank struggles, down the hallway with his walker with his physical therapist. And he's into it. Yep. The therapist is cheering him on, and he's, grunting and stuff and into it until Marie comes out and starts cheering him on. Like he gets to the bedroom, collapses, he high fives the therapist like, "Fuck yeah." But then Marie holds up a high five and he almost leaves her hanging.
Yeah.
Like he cannot, he can't be this in front of Marie. Absolutely unthinkable, but also just like it's what's going on with him. Like he cannot be this in front of Marie. That's unacceptable. It's okay for this person who it's their job to do this. And there's also like the sub theme of this episode in the season of people having an emotion and having no good outlet for it and just blind firing.
Yes.
Like the feelings Hank is having he does not understand them.
No.
It's just like a negativity hose that has to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And Marie's always there.
Yes.
So Marie gets it.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking awful. It's really, really hard to watch.
Oh, it's terrible. Especially terrible to watch Marie, following the therapist out to the door, just desperate for any kind of connection.
Yeah.
Right. Like Hank is trapped here. Marie, she has, I don't even know if she's still going to work right now or if she's just on leave.
We started with her there's a scene where it's her emptying a bedpan. Like I assume she's not.
Yeah.
If she's doing that, I assume that she's stay-at-home care.
Right. But she's trapped too, and there's nobody to really connect with, and ask like, hey, do you want to go full time? We have plenty of bedrooms, and he laughs and, just kind of says a platitude like, oh, we got to take it one day at a time, and it just kind of like doesn't really even address it.
Yeah. Marie goes to Hank and says, hey, I was thinking about making dinner. And he just goes, get out.
Mm-hmm.
And she starts crying and leaves. He was celebratory when he was with the physical therapist. Like he is making progress. It's brutal to watch.
And this is so real too.
Yeah.
The, any kind of long-term care, long-term therapy or whatever, this is absolutely the case where like the person puts on the face for the professional who comes in and then is just completely different, completely worse when they're not there. Right.
Yep. Yeah. It's tough stuff.
Yeah.
Pizza arrives at Jesse's. They're those gigantic pizzas from the roof pizza place, and they talk about that.
Yep.
I find this is also very funny.
Yep.
Again, I would the podcast with Badger and Skinny Pete is a great idea. They're like, they don't cut the pizzas and they pass the savings on to you. And he's like, how long did it take to cut a pizza? He's like, well, listen, man, it takes like 10 seconds to cut a pizza. You do 10 million pizzas a year. Over 10 years, that's
think of all the
I
manpower.
Don't know. Think of all the manpower.
I just now put it together that what Badger is doing here is a stoner incompetent version of what Skylar does it later.
Oh, sure. Yeah. The same kind of, yeah, exactly. It's very good.
Yeah.
It's also such an awful idea. The Skinny Pete's like, you got some scissors? I'll cut this shit right.
Yeah.
Like,
when literally the answer is sometimes you order a pizza uncut because it stays warm longer.
Sure. Yeah. It's very funny. This thing.
Yeah.
But Andrea shows up. She looks disgusted, and Jesse goes out to talk to her. Jesse asks about Brock, and Brock's in the car watching, which is very sad. Again, cutest kid in the world.
Yeah. And he starts getting out. Andrea tells him to stay there. Right.
Yeah. We'll catch up later, little man.
Yeah. And, he starts trying to make excuses, and she says, no, I'm not here to torture you. Like, you don't have to dance for me. I'm here to ask about this. And she produces a huge envelope full of cash. One night, the guys who killed my brother, they're killed brutally. And then this money shows up,
was that you?
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I don't want to know what you have to do with this, but I want to know if anyone's going to come looking for it. And he goes, no, absolutely not. She says, what am I supposed to do with this? And he goes, use it, get out of that shithole neighborhood or blow it all on glass. I'd have no way of stopping you, but I've got to believe you won't do that.
Yeah. Horrible
and
thing to say.
She doesn't respond. Yeah. Horrible thing to say.
Yeah.
She doesn't respond. She just walks away, and Brock waves sadly.
Yeah. And, we're hard on Jesse for falling into this arc. Right.
Yeah.
And
it's because we love Jesse though.
Yes. Yeah. But also like, it's a horrible situation that he's in, because what does he do? Tell somebody who's in the straight world that he killed a person?
Yeah. You can't do necessarily therapy for this.
Yeah. Any kind of revelation or catharsis he could get implicates not just him, but her too. Right.
Yeah. And exactly. Implicates him and endangers him.
Yes.
He's seen a direct example of what happens when you fuck with this shit.
Yeah.
There. And literally the only person in the world, who could understand it is Walt, and Walt is still Walt.
Mm-hmm.
Like Walt's still playing the game.
Yeah.
He's not here to process. He's here to keep, like, in a way they're both like, let's keep playing so we don't have to deal with shit.
Mm-hmm.
But Walt is still playing the great game. you know, the cat and mouse stuff. And Jesse is, I just need to distract myself.
Yeah.
Neither of them are able to process.
If the music never stops, none of us has to find out there's not a chair for us.
We don't have to pick a chair. Exactly.
Yeah.
And Walt does that until season 5.
Yes.
You know, like he doesn't, you know, he doesn't get there. Jesse gets there sooner than that. Walt doesn't.
Yeah.
So sad shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of Walt, he's got a terrible plan because he knows where Gus lives.
Yep. I'm going to show up to his house. That'll work. This scene's great.
I love this really tense. It's so tense.
Yeah. It's really good. Drives up, you know, checks his gun, looks over, looks at his Heisenberg hat. It's like, yep, I'm going to need you. The music starts and starts walking towards Gus's house, you know, like he's going to open the door. The camera's right behind his shoulder. And then the phone rings. And it's Tyrus that just says, "Go home, Walter." And Walt looks around and sees nobody there.
Yeah.
Nobody, like there's no way he could be watching him, but they know where he's at all the time.
Yeah. We see in Better Call Saul that this place is wired for sound, like everywhere around it. You know, and also in Better Call Saul, there's an amazing echo of this.
Yeah. It's really good.
Yeah.
We get a scene here where the doorbell rings and as Maria is washing out bedpans, and it's a courier with tons more rocks.
Yeah.
You know, Hank's like, "Hey, how many boxes are they damaged? I'm not paying for them, you know, shit fuckers to damage my boxes. You know, can you check them for damage?"
And he's yelling at her for letting the guy leave. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's getting sick of it.
Yeah.
You know, she's in the next episode, she's going to start backsliding because everybody doesn't know what to do.
Right.
With these emotions. You know, yeah.
Skylar's about to make her move as well. I just all of this is people is people attempting something and being rebuked. You know,
yes. According to the wiki, they've all been snubbed.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't want to give the wiki credit, but like when you list it all out, like everybody's getting. Whatever.
It is what's happening. I don't know how. You know, that could be the cleverness of the titling.
Maybe,
you know, that's fine. I don't. It's fine.
I don't. Yeah. But she is going in for a meeting with Bogdan at the at the car wash, you know, and she's like, I'm here to make you an offer, please name your price. And Bogdan is chauvinist about it.
He says 10 million. Well, he's not chauvinist about it. He says, $10 million.
The chauvinism is, very specifically like, you think you're going to be here, and get down, get on your knees and, polish those rims, and he's, and then she's
ghastly
like,
euphemism.
Yeah.
And then that's when she goes, well, what about a price? And he goes, $10 million, and she thinks she's playing hardball. And she says, how about $879,000? He says, did you pull that out of nowhere? And she goes, no. And she shows her work.
She has binders.
Yep. She shows her work on the math she did, the average customers, etc. Figure out the overhead, the property value and stuff, and added $50,000 not to be insulting. And Bogdan gets a badass moment. He goes, okay, 20 million.
Yes.
You think I don't know who you are. That is the price for Walter White.
Yes.
He grabbed himself. He kicked over my air fresheners. And now he doesn't have the courage. He sends his woman to go buy this for me.
I love just he very specifically remembers what Walt did. It is it has stuck with him a lot. Yeah.
It's a delicious moment.
Yeah. And this is going to lead up to you feel bad for Bogdan,
Yep.
Terrible boss, but also,
he does get screwed.
Yes.
By the white machine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another great scene here. So Mike, he's still at his bar, right? This time he's actually sitting up at the bar. He was at a table before, and he's watching a Saul commercial for the Wayfarer airline settlements. The tastelessness of this, the big exploding clip art airplane.
I love it. Yeah, it's very funny to me. Yeah. And Walt walks in and Mike, he's been following Mike. Mike calls him out. You might want to learn to tail better if you're going to make a habit of it. You're going to want to
practice your draw. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. Walt's, just because you shot Jesse James doesn't make you Jesse James. Walt is pretending,
Yes. Yeah. And Walt is here to make peace, to make an appeal, offers to buy him a drink. And Mike says, why not? You make a hell of a lot more than I do. So he's going to take his drink. And Walt makes his pitch, starts trying to explain himself, offering justifications, saying, I did what I did out of loyalty, to Jesse and also out of self-defense.
Yep. I hope you can appreciate that, just like I appreciate that when you were going to kill me, you were just following orders. I harbor ill will. And Mike, now I can rest easy. Walt goes at that point, he says, listen, I'm just trying to, and Mike goes, I know what you're trying to do. Drink your drink. And Walt starts in on his play, and just, Mike is immune to this kind of shit. Mike sees it immediately through it.
Yeah.
A hell of the last couple of weeks makes a man wonder where he stands. I say idly out of nowhere. I love this scene so much. This is really good.
The presumption on Walt that this is not exactly what Mike has been doing this entire time. Thinking about what Walt brings up, like, oh, did you realize that maybe you're working for a very dangerous person?
Or if you didn't know that already, from how long you've worked there, like what are, you are the one who fucked this up. Mike has gotten to an area of equilibrium, right? So like this is going into Better Call Saul stuff. Better Call Saul ends with Mike being called out for being complicit in all this shit.
Yes.
Because of a horrible thing that happens. It's a great scene. His arc ends in that show. That's how the show ends.
Yeah.
And in the intervening years, he had gotten to a place of stability where like he's doing the work is evil. It supplies this poison drug to everyone, but it's not barbaric.
Yes.
Is the idea. And Walt, with his pride and his ego and all of his bullshit, has made it that again. He has fucked it up.
Yes.
Like he was able to look the other way, and live with himself. And now it's more difficult. It's complicated. It's all in danger because of Walt.
Yeah.
The amount of contempt he has for Walt from this point on is so incredibly fun to watch. Like God is a treasure.
Yeah.
Jonathan's a treasure.
Yeah.
So Walt brings up what happens to Victor, and Mike goes, you got that piece on you? Like, wear it if it makes you feel better, but it's not going to make a difference.
Yeah.
If it comes down to it. And Walt says, no, listen, you and I are in the same boat. What the hell was that? A message? And this is the first time I'd ever heard this line, and I use it all the time. He goes, you won, Walter. You got the job. Do yourself a favor and learn to take yes for an answer.
That's a good line. Yeah.
Learn to take yes for an answer. And then this is when Walt makes his play. Hey, just get me alone in a room with Gus. I'll take care of it. You don't have to do anything. And then Mike's getting furious at this.
Yeah.
He's pushing past the clothes. If you look online, people seem to think this is because Mike cares very much about loyalty.
No.
That's not how I read it. Yeah, like that's the internet interpretation of this. And I know the internet is wrong about everything, so I'm not surprised by that. But he's not mad because Walt isn't being loyal. That's insane.
Yeah.
It's because it's not going to fucking work.
It's not,
and also it's not what he wants.
Yeah.
Like
it's not going to be because like you said, there was stability before, right? And here is Walt, who because of his pride has forced everything into this crisis and saying, help me kill the person who pays you and guarantees you a certain amount of security. So you can just be left to twist in the wind without a way to support your family.
So we all can be.
Yeah.
Like Walt doesn't have an exit plan.
No.
And I love that the show continues past that. Like there are people who think, who don't like Breaking Bad after the season. But to me, it's really interesting to make Walt twist in the wind for not having that exit plan.
Yes.
Like him trying to be a Gus Jr. ultimately ends up fucking everything up way worse. And him having to face the consequence for that, I think is really important to the show.
Yes.
And I love this little bit, Mike goes, are you done? And Walt puts on a voice, the Heisenberg voice, and goes, yeah. And it's the same voice he used when he's like, your boss is going to need me. Yeah. You know, it's the exact same voice, and Mike kicks the shit out of him. And it's great.
Punches him, gets him to the floor, and then just starts kicking him. I love how there are people like at tables, like it's not full, the bar isn't full, but there are people who just do not react to this.
Yeah, they go, whoa. Like somebody goes, whoa. Yeah. And just goes, thanks for the drink, and leaves. Yeah. It's so good. Perfect scene.
The episode ends back at Jesse's. People are leaving the party, including Badger and Skinny Pete. Like, despite all of Jesse's efforts and his resources, he is not able to convince people to be here all of the time. Yes. Badger and Skinny Pete are leaving. Like, hey, I haven't slept in 3 days. Maybe I'll see you next week. Badger's like, I'm turning into a slee stack.
Yeah, slee stats are the reptilians from Land of the Lost. In case anybody is under the age of 1,000. And then Badger has a little. Badger's like, yeah, I think I've got this cat, and like I'm supposed to feed it.
That
poor kitty.
Both
and they're
of
like,
us
hey, how
just
about
immediately concerned about the cat.
Yeah, well, it's a good kitty, I bet. Yeah. And they're gonna leave. They're like, hey, we'll do next week. And Jesse goes, yeah, next week. Okay, that's cool. And you're like, are we cool? Jesse goes, yeah, we're cool. And they leave, but Jesse's not cool.
No.
Sets down in front of the subwoofer, absolutely pumps the volume, and just starts shaking and crying as this horrible song is vibrating him.
Yeah. You can see the cones of the speaker just bouncing visibly.
Yeah, pounding him.
Yeah. Apparently, so there are, they couldn't figure out how to do this, without deafening Aaron Paul. So they asked around, they tried a bunch of different stuff, and they went to a stereo store and like, hey, this is the effect that we're trying to achieve. Like, oh yeah, no, here are these things. They're called bass testers that will make the speakers do that without producing sound.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, and so that's what's there, and the music is synced and put in post.
Oh, here I thought Aaron Paul was dedicated.
Mm-hmm.
And would just go deaf, but I guess not. Fake actor. And that's the episode, which in recounting it, I think I like this episode a little bit more than I feel like I like it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of the scenes are really, really good. It's just very much a moving stuff into place episode, which is fine. We need those every once in a while.
Yeah.
And I'm also I will say, even though I like the scheme they do, I am not particularly compelled by Skylar buying the car wash as a subplot in the early part of the season. I don't think it's that fun to watch other than this scene. And I don't think it's that interesting.
No.
It's a lot of time buying a car wash.
Yes.
Which is just not super exciting to me. I think it's the least compelling storyline that's going on right now, personally.
Yeah. Fortunately, there's not much more of that. We get the scheme, we get to meet Kubi, and then Skylar gets more interesting stuff to do when the hammer comes down on Ted, right?
Yeah. The Ted stuff makes this interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for listening.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. I feel like we did it. It feels like a short episode, but also I think this is just how long the show is.
Yeah.
We covered everything. We don't, I don't feel like we gave anything short shrift. So this is a 45-minute long Andrew.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to support us, you can go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv and kick us a couple of bucks a month. Get a bunch of bonus content. If you like our media discussions, we have a monthly show about horror movies called Unfilmable. If you were not immediately turned off by our discussion of how this show gets Resident Evil 4 wrong, you can check out our mini
podcasts on Resident Evil. Yeah, Resident Evil 4 specifically.
It is the one game. No, it's not the one game we've recorded the most about. It's probably the one game outside of a Dark Souls or a Baldur's Gate that we have not. That we have recorded the most about.
The single game. We've recorded more. We probably recorded with the Retronauts and stuff we did as many hours as we've done about Witcher 3.
Yes.
Between the remake, the original, and that. Resident Evil 4, I think is one of the things that is, other than Dark Souls 1, is perfectly in our Venn diagram.
Yes.
In the center of it. So it is near and dear to our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And will we ever cover Call of Duty World at War zombie mode? Time will tell.
Time will tell, but we did have an episode about Left 4 Dead.
We did. Yeah. And one about Call of Duty 4.
True.
Tons of things. We've been doing this for like more than a decade. It's stupid. Lots of things. Check them out.
Yeah, I'm moving our shows over. Not moving. I'm getting our shows on YouTube. YouTube Music, so people will be able to listen to that. But I say that by way to say, like, there are 4,500 and change episodes that need to be ported over and uploaded. Yeah,
it's a lot of content.
It's a lot.
Much of it free. The rest of it you can get on Patreon. As we mentioned, that also supports us, lets us keep the shows going, pays our rents and mortgages and all those things, insurance, keeps our house hot, and lets us pay our producer, Gwen.
Thank you, Gwen. Also composed and performed our theme music for this show.
Yeah. So until next time, they're rocks. Don't be an asshole.
Rocks are a subset of minerals. You don't actually have to be like, you don't have to be like that.
Nobody likes a pet ant.